What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Schrager Hour. I'm here. I'm in the flesh. And I got to say, last week's response to my travel woes was enormous. It was maybe the greatest response from a monologue that we've had since doing this show and doing this podcast. And if you didn't listen to last week's, just a quick summary. It was supposed to be a simple flight from New York to Detroit to Green Bay, all done on a Sunday. And it ended up me going from New York, sitting on the runway for about 4 hours, sitting on a LaGuardia for an additional 4 hours, to Detroit, getting stuck in Detroit, being in a hotel room in Detroit, going to the airport in Detroit, not getting on any flights in Detroit, and then finding my way back to New York with not a seat to be had on any flights to Green Bay, Milwaukee, Appleton, Madison, wherever. And I ended up flying back to New York City on a whim and doing first take and get up Monday morning instead of being at the Packers-Eagles game. So I was taking no risks this week. I was originally supposed to fly out of JFK, which is the New York City airport, at 4 p.m. on Sunday, meaning I'd be able to go see my kids basketball, watch the 1 o'clock games, and then be able to make it to Vegas. Wasn't thinking I was going to have a wild Vegas weekend. I already had been there week 2, where I did the Chargers Raiders game on the sidelines and got to go to Canelo Crawford. I wasn't topping any of that this weekend. So I was like, all right, come in, fly in, check in, go to sleep, wake up, go to the gym, and then go do my job for Monday Night Football and Sports Center. But I wasn't messing around. So earlier in the week, I called up the travel folks. I said, put me on the earliest Sunday morning flight to Las Vegas. And oh, you better believe there was a 6 a.m. flight out of JFK, meaning the alarm was set for 3:45 a.m. to get in the car and head to the airport. My friend Eric invited me to the UFC fights on Saturday night at the Garden. I said, yes, originally. Friday, gave him that awful text that you hate doing a day in advance, texting back when the tickets are being given to you for free from a friend, and you say, can't make it, not going to enjoy it. We'll be out till 1 a.m. and we'll have 1 hour sleep. Got to be on time. Got to make this trip. Now, here's the truth of the matter. I can't miss 2 weeks in a row. I could miss maybe one, which we did, and it's because of the government shutdown. Could not miss 2. But a 6 a.m. flight, so I got there. I land in Vegas at 8:30 in the morning. Now, this is before the 1 o'clock games even kicked off. We're in the Washington-Miami game when we land. And I'm like, what am I going to do all day? I'm not looking to gamble. I'm not looking to go see Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. Am I going to sit in my room? I don't know. Now, it just so happens I had made a friend recently, a gentleman named Alex, really nice guy, who had connections at the Fountain Blue, the new hotel in Las Vegas. I guess it opened probably like 2 years ago. Now, at the Fountain Blue, they have a live nightclub. If you've been in Miami, you know it's one of the best spots. You know, John Summit, the DJ, he performs there. It's a whole thing at night. Now, daytime, I don't know what to do. I'm sitting in a hotel room in a different hotel. I text Alex. I say, do they have televisions in the men's locker room of the spa at the Fountain Blue? He's like, let me ask. Sure enough, he gets me a day pass to the spa at the Fountain Blue, where they did have televisions, and I could watch the Broncos play the Chiefs, the Rams play the Seahawks, and the 49ers play the Cardinals in the late window. This is like my dream day. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go in the sauna, go in the steam, get a workout in. I'm going to sit in my robe, and I'm going to drink lemon water while I watch 3 great games, and I call it a day, and I'm having a blast. I do exactly that. It was the greatest late afternoon window you could imagine. The spa was basically empty. It was fantastic. I just sat there and I watched the games in a robe, fully exfoliated like a gentleman. All right, like a gentleman. I left watching these games, and thank you to the folks at the Fountain Blue and Alex for letting me just sit there, like someone. What's the term when you got a squatter? I was like a squatter at the Fountain Blue Spa. It was lovely. But then I walk out of the spa and I'm like, all right, Sunday Night Football's starting, and I had plans. We'll get to these plans. And I'm like, all right, what? When all of a sudden there was an enormous commotion right outside the spa at the Fountain Blue, like enormous. I'm talking Was Leonardo DiCaprio walking by? Was there, some sort of fight? I don't know. It was a massive, this is a quiet Sunday afternoon. I hear women shrieking, going nuts. And I look over, and sure enough, it's about 8 women from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake and Potomac and Atlanta. And everyone following them has these credentials on that are basically like badges. And I realize I am in the middle of something called BravoCon. If you're not sure what BravoCon is, I wasn't either. Every year, Bravo celebrities, also known as the Bravo celebrities, I was told that they all descend upon Las Vegas for one weekend, and they do panel discussions, and they get to meet all the fans, and you can pay an exuberant amount of money and you can go and watch, oh, I don't know, the third lead from Summer House on a panel with the guy from Million Dollar Listing LA, with the two dueling frenemies from Below Deck Mediterranean, whatever it is. Now, there are thousands and thousands of Bravo fans all in Vegas at the same time as Cowboys Raiders. Now, Cowboys Raiders doesn't seem like a great game on paper, but it also happened to be the most expensive ticket in the NFL this entire season. Why? Cowboys have never played in Vegas. Since the Raiders got there a few years ago, those two teams have never played in Vegas. Before the season, there was Super Bowl hopes for the Cowboys fans. They all gobbled up the tickets, and Dallas fans travel. So imagine this dynamic. You have the Bravo scene, which was all of a sudden a hornet's nest of activity right in this lobby of this hotel. And then you have, every single national fan of America's team wearing a CD Lamb jersey, a Dak Prescott jersey, an Emmitt Smith jersey, strolling through in their denim shorts and whatever else they're wearing. Some of them with the plastic hurricane drinks around their neck. Like this was some scene, and I'm just in the midst of it all, and I'm looking to the sky, to the heavens, just saying, "This is America. This is America. This is why we're still going to make it as a country, because people are still spending their hard-earned money to see Dorita, or what, I don't even know her name, Dorit from the Real Housewives, and they're also going to go pay to go see Quinn and Williams. Oh, I'm being told by Tucker, our producer in the chat, it's Dorinda, and the tell me, Tucker, if I'm pronouncing it, the Guiducci sisters, they made up, apparently. That was a big deal. Guiducci, is that right? Or Giaducci? They're the Jersey housewives. They apparently, Jaducci, they apparently made up on this panel. No, not wrong. Not Jaducci. Hold on. We're getting another one here. Judici, the Judici sisters, they made up. Did they? I think they did. I don't know. That was all the buzz. So that's all going on. And then I get a text. You love getting a good text in Vegas. You never know where you're going to go. I was thinking, get in bed. We're going to watch Lions Eagles. Going to be very attentive. Going to have my little notepad out. We're going to take all the notes. Going to be ready for first take in the morning. Going to be ready for Monday night countdown. I got a text from a guy who's got one name in my phone. Troy. Oh, yeah. Troy Aikman texts me. Want to grab dinner? Oh, it's like being invited to the prom by the valedictorian and the homecoming king all at once. I'm like, do I want to get dinner with Troy Aikman in Vegas? Yes, I want to get dinner with Troy Aikman in Vegas. I say, where at? He says, new restaurant in the Wynn called Steak 666. I'm like, Steak 666 sounds sinister. I'm like, I'm there. Wherever it is, I'm there. Take an Uber over there. Now, I've been to the Wynn before. I was at the Wynn when we were at that fight earlier in the fall, and the Wynn is, I would argue, probably the fanciest and the best hotel. But there's a great like tower suites lobby bar area where during the draft and during the Super Bowl, that's where all the action was. And when I say all the action, it's like you get your NFL owners there, you get your celebrities there. This is where they were hanging. And then there's this other really cool bar called Delilah, which is an LA restaurant group, the H Wood guys. They have their setup, which is probably the best place to start a night in Vegas. Just a cool live music, the whole thing, great scene. I didn't know about this Steak 666, but then we walk through the Tower Suites a little bit, and it's a pop-up restaurant. And I believe, and I would double check this, but I was told by the waiter, now whether or not this is true or not, this Steak 66 is being spearheaded by Taylor Sheridan, and the guy who did Landman, and the guy who's done all the Yellowstones, and this is like his restaurant concept. And the restaurant it's in is this incredible breakfast spot that I've been to called Tableau, which Tableau, if you go on a Saturday or Sunday morning in Vegas and you go to the maitre d' and you say, I'd like a table, it's like, oh yeah, no problem. How many? 2, 4? Okay, it's going to be 3-hour wait. Like one of those deals, like the best breakfast spot, but like classy, elevated. So I'm walking in, I'm like, the maitre d's like, all right, checking the list. It's like a whole thing. Like, who are you here to see? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm here to meet with the ESPN crew. And they're like looking at me like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, I'm here to see the Monday Night Football guys. And they're like, what? I go, I'm here to see Troy Aikman. They're like, right this way, sir. So we go to the table, and it's Troy and it's 7 other people from the Monday Night Football crew, but not the on-air talent, not the producer or the director, but like the researcher and the AD and the graphics. And Troy is a rockin' tour. He's at the table just telling stories, and we've got a TV set up right there for us to watch Eagles Lions. By the way, go out in Vegas with Troy Aikman on a Cowboys weekend. I'm just saying this. I understand that the Bravo celebrities have kind of an aura around them, and all due respect to Dorinda and to the Countess and whoever else. I was even a little starstruck to see the way that people gravitate and look at Troy Aikman at a dinner table. So we have one of the greatest dinners I've ever had in my life. I'm not exaggerating here. I'm talking tomahawk steaks and jumbo shrimp, and it's one of those where I'm like, all right, so at what point do I like fake offer Troy like, all right, here's my credit card, sir, and he says, no, I got it. I see Troy do one of the slickest moves during like the main courses, and everyone's having a blast and we're talking and we're laughing and Troy's telling stories. He just slides the card over to the waiter, and the bill never even appears. I'm like, this guy, what a legend. We finished dinner. We're all feeling great. The game had just completed, a good solid effort by the Eagles. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go up to my room. Troy's like, should we walk the casino a little bit, get a little feel? I'm like, you better believe I want to walk the casino with you. What are you talking about? We take a stroll around the Wynn Casino. It's great. And then we are getting approached by everyone. Troy is just complete, cool, calm, take selfies, whatever, hilarious throughout it. And we wrap the night in a few hours and we head back home to our hotel. Troy's in the same hotel. We say, what's up? We say goodbye. And I got to tell you, it was fantastic. It was the most tame, wonderful Vegas day I've ever had in my life. Think about this. I got to watch all the games. I got to do it in like a completely sober and like completely zen like state. I watched them in a spa, which was lovely, straight out of the sauna, and what they have called the stargazing room, which was fantastic. And then I had dinner with Troy Aikman on a Cowboys weekend where there was a line 100 deep of people just looking at us in a fishbowl eating dinner. And then the game happens. We go to the game on Monday. I'm on NFL Live. Uh, Tremendous episode, like great. I'd say our best episode as a crew because the games were so good the night before and we all emptied the bag on what we had. And then I'm standing there and I'm like, all right, we're going to be wrapping soon. And the Cowboys start arriving. See Quinnen Williams, big hug for Quinnen. I see Dak Prescott, big hug for Dak. And at that moment, I'm talking to some of the folks on the Cowboys coaching staff, and they're all wearing their Marshawn Nealon t-shirts, and they're all coming off the bye. And I'm like, oh, this team, they are not losing today. They are not losing to anybody. They are going to beat whoever they play today by about 20 points. And they were so on the same page after this horrible tragedy, and they were so together. And I'm not quite sure we got the details on why CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens didn't play the first drive. We heard from the Cowboys PR via Lisa Salters that it was a disciplinary issue. I didn't see them at Landman's restaurant. I didn't see them in the spa the day before, so I won't speculate that they were out in Vegas. But I will say this. The second those guys got on the field, there was a little sprinkle of Cowboys aura, a little sprinkle of, oh, wow, wait a second. This is what this offense can look like. And oh, by the way, Quinnen Williams looked great. The other acquisitions look great. The defense. Now I know it's the Raiders. They look good. 4-5-1, the Cowboys, with a brutal stretch coming up with 3 difficult games, including the Eagles. But would this not be the most Jerry Jones thing ever? With a game on Thanksgiving and a game on Christmas and a nationally televised, game this weekend against the Eagles to go on a little bit of a run. Uh, they were going to beat anyone based on the emotions and the way they came off that tragedy and what Shoddy was saying pregame and how it all went down during the game. I understand. But Quinnen Williams looked like the best defensive player, not named Myles Garrett in football this week, and looked inspired. And if they get even the bare minimum from a defense, they're going to be a tough out moving forward. I made my flight. I'm here for the podcast. It's rare that I said I had a very tame experience in Vegas, but I got to see some Real Housewives. I got to have a wonderful meal. I got to exfoliate, and I get to come out of that whole entire experience thinking maybe, just maybe, the Cowboys have a shot. A couple other notes from the week that was. Worst loss in 2 years from the Jim Harbaugh era. Confusing loss. This is one where the Jaguars are coming in there, and it's like, all right, Jags Chargers sounds like a nice potential. Maybe one of these teams goes on to be a wild card squad or makes a run and wins their division. Chargers just got bullied. And that's what was concerning about this. If you're a Chargers fan, this is your identity. It's Harbaugh in the trenches. And that's what they drafted. And I know they're out with a lot of injuries, but the numbers are crazy. Jaguars had the ball for nearly 38 minutes. Chargers only had the ball for 22 minutes. It's the lowest amount in a Jim Harbaugh coached NFL game ever. That goes back to his San Francisco years. Jaguars scored 4 rushing touchdowns, all of them in the red zone. Chargers look like a shell of themselves. Alarming loss if you're a Chargers fan, especially off what was a pretty promising win that they had the previous Sunday against the Steelers. I'd say Bears Vikings was an interesting game. I watched that entire one, and it looked like JJ was going to pull it out at the end, and then Devin Duvernay has that incredible kick return. I don't know what to make of the Bears. I don't think anyone knows what to make with the Bears. They're 7-3 right now. They're in first place in the NFC North. If the playoffs were today, they'd be hosting a playoff game in the wild card round. And as much as we're trying to figure it all out, like, here are the facts. This game was different. This game was important. This was Ben Johnson's first NFC North win of his career. This was Caleb Williams' only his second in 9 tries in the NFC North. And general manager Ryan Poles has been there for a while. Only his 4th NFC North win in 21 games. And the offense, it did not wow you, but they run the ball. They make plays when they have to. And very quietly, the Chicago Bears lead the league in takeaways. They lead the league in turnover differential. And they lead the league in interceptions. They have 15 of them. They have 2 in the first half. One of them, that incredible one at the end. And just when you think they're going to give it away and it's going to be, okay, well, the bottom fell out, Duvernay has that 50-yard return, and it's like, this might be a special season. It might be one of those years where, just like the Commanders last year or the Giants when they did it a couple of years back, where we win all the one-score games and we find a way when it matters most. Duvernay goes for 50 yards. Cairo Santos bangs one through for about 48 yards, and he's doing what looked like a skull chant into a gritty dance in the locker room, and Ben Johnson gave yet another one of those, like, very inspired post-game locker room speeches, one that Bill Simmons and Cousin Sal have been having a blast with. But the truth of the matter is this: the Bears are in first place and they can apologize for none of it. They find a way. The stats do tell a story. They're very good defensively, and they capitalize when they get those moments. Chicago Bears, they're not going away quietly into the night. They are a first place team and they deserve our respect. One more thing would just be the Eagles. I look at the Eagles, and there was more drama this week, and it was AJ Brown, obviously, and it was with him with Janky Rondo, the Twitch streamer, and then he spoke very eloquently at his locker about, the offense looks like a blank show, like he said it, and everyone freaks out. They're wins right now. They went into Lambeau and they won. They went into Tampa in 100-degree weather and flew in on a Friday and they won. They went into Arrowhead and they won. They've beaten the Rams at home. They've beaten the Lions at home. They've beaten the Cowboys at home. They've beaten the Vikings on the road. 6 of their 8 wins that they've had this season are against playoff teams from last year. And if there's an RPI, and I know that's a college basketball term, they're number 1 in the league. So it feels like this is one of those deals where maybe on the outside and even in the local media, because Derek Gunn had that, inflammatory report this week, and Seth Joyner was talking about it, how Jalen now has friction and there's some distance between the quarterback and the rest of the players. And again, I can't deny, confirm any of it. All I see is that they find a way to win, and it's ugly, but it's ugly to who? Because obviously they're not putting that much on Jalen Hurts' plate. They're not asking him to throw the ball 40 times. They're not asking Saquon to do what he did last year. They're asking their guys to do what is necessary to win games. I'll say this though, Lane Johnson, that is a huge loss. And that would scare me if I'm an Eagles fan as we head towards November, December, and of course, January football. My player of the week was in that 1:00 window. My player of the week was Bryce Young. Bryce Young was unbelievable in this win. They were down, they go on the road, and Young finds a way to what we thought was a touchdown to Rico Dowdle, and then they take it back. They're like, ball's on the 10. And then he just says, okay, and throws another touchdown pass and does it. And then they get the ball in overtime, and Bryce Young leads them down the field, and they win on the kick. 31 of 45 against the Falcons in Atlanta. 448 passing yards. That's a career high. It's also a franchise record, more than Cam Newton ever had, more than Jake Delhomme ever had. 3 passing touchdowns, 132.2 passer rating, second highest rating of his career. 448 passing yards, the third most in a single game this season. And you look at what Bryce Young's doing. They win games. They win games. And I have to say, Bryce Young, a lot of people writing him off, and he's had some weird games this season. Weird games where you're like, I don't understand what that pass was, or I don't understand if this guy, they find a way, and Bryce Young is their leader, and they are a team that's all swimming upstream together. Carolina Panthers, another squad, keep an eye on as we head towards November, December, and maybe even January. Sports media winner of the week is the Seahawks official Twitter account. The Seahawks official Twitter account. Here's why. Ernest Jones IV had the quote of the week when he was defending his quarterback, Sam Darnold. Let's play it for you right now.
I mean, Sam's been balling. Like, if we want to try to define Sam by this game or what, man, Sam's had us in every fucking game. So for him to sit there and say, oh, that's my fault. No, it's not. There was plays that defensively we could have made plays. There were opportunities where we could have got better stops. Yeah, I mean, like, it's football, man. And he's our quarterback. We got his back, and you got anything to say, quite frankly, fuck you.
Yes. So that quote comes out. It's making the rounds. And then I'm like, all right. Seahawks Twitter account tweets that out. Unfiltered. I'm like, all right, we have crossed the Rubicon. It used to be you'd only tweet out like, here's the community player of the week and final score of the game. Seahawks 20 and 49ers 17. Now we're just tweeting out great sound bites that are just laced with obscenities. And in that case, when you're defending your quarterback, I'm all for it. Some good games coming up this following week as we head towards what will be an entertaining Sunday and Monday. I love the Monday night game. Carolina, San Francisco, 2 teams I don't think anyone thought would be here right in the playoff mix. That's one to watch. But the game of the week is now Cowboys, Eagles. It is. I know we love Colts Chiefs, but Colts Chiefs to me is a nice 1:00 game, but like Cowboys Eagles matters. I am very interested to see what we get. It's down in Dallas. Cowboys riding high right now on an emotional wave, and Eagles looking like, all right, we can stop you, but our offense really takes a lot to get going. They played week 1. It was a close game. CeeDee Lamb had those drops, and the Eagles found a way. But I'm looking at this one, and I don't even know if it's an upset special. After just being around that team a little bit, I'm kind of feeling the Cowboys, and I'm kind of feeling an upset, if it's even an upset, when we get the Vegas lines on Sunday. Quick thoughts before we get to our guest. Cam Scatterboo at Monday Night Raw, making a lot of news in New York. Do we like that? Do we not like that? Obviously out with a fractured lower leg injury, and he's out there pushing wrestlers and in a fracas. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. It was fun. Abdul Carter, we thought he was falling asleep in a meeting. That was the report. Then it was refuted, saying he was getting treatment. Either way, missed a meeting. He's at Monday Night Raw, mixing it up with Dominique Mysterio. Am I okay with it? I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Just such a lost season for the Giants and the Jets that, like, I'm okay with it. Like, just have fun. These guys are young. Let's get an identity. Let's get to. Did they hurt themselves? No. Had Cam Scatterbu somehow broken his other foot while wrestling from the side with Andrew Schultz? Would I have been upset? Yes, but he didn't. I'm okay with it. And then the Shador Sanders stuff. The game was on in a small window. I told you there's 3 other games I was watching. The Ravens game kind of got the negligence of my attention. I He didn't play well. He played horrible, 4 of 16, and then there was discourse of whether he was set up to fail and whether full week with the ones. I'm gonna wait on any judgment of Shador Sanders, and assuming that his performance this week defines his entire future NFL career. That said, the hourglass is getting pretty thin on those Browns quarterbacks that are both rookies, him and Gabriel. You have about half a season to prove that they're not that you're worthy of them not packaging a bunch of picks and moving up and getting a quarterback or acquiring one this offseason. Clearly, they need one. With that said, I'm going to be talking to maybe the hottest name in coaching candidate circles right now. He's coming off one of the great performances you'll see by a defensive coordinator and one of the great wins. Broncos defensive coordinator and a guy I've long admired, Vance Joseph, joins us right after this. One of the most respected men in the NFL, one of the most well-liked men in the NFL, and also one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. His defense is 4th in points allowed, 3rd in yards allowed, and leads the league in sacks. And they're coming off maybe the biggest win for a franchise that's been looking for big wins in many, many years. It's Denver Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph joining the Schrager Hour. Coach Joseph, thanks for joining, man.
Hey, man, it's good to be here with you. Good seeing you, always.
I love seeing you. You're so fired up after these games. Just take us into the locker room and the feeling after knowing not only did you guys beat the Chiefs
Yeah,
in that massive game, but now there's a bye week that you
yeah.
guys can get healthy, get rested, and really let this thing sink in a little bit.
No, that was fun after the game, man. It's been a long couple months. We played like 7 games in like 39 days. Now we got 1 game in 23 days. So for the team, it's been a long haul. It's been obviously a bunch of close wins at the end. So that's kind of, that's taxing on your mind. So to win against the Chiefs and have a bye week, it's the best story you can write. Now we get guys back, we get healthy, man, and now we got last part of the season is to make a run here. So it's been really good.
I love watching this defense, and the story is cool because it seems like everyone is on the same page. A lot of
Yeah,
times we've seen teams where offense is struggling, defense maybe is at ends with the offense, but you don't get that feeling even when the offense maybe isn't throwing for 400 yards. It feels like the defense, like, we got your back, and then you trust that Bo Nix is going to find a way in the end. That was the story on Sunday again. Can you
yeah,
take us a little bit within the team and within the locker room of how everyone's got each other's back and
yeah.
Bo Nix is your dude?
I tell you, Peter, this is my 19th season coaching in the league, man, and you rarely have teams that are so close knit, and that's all 3 areas. That's teams, that's defense and offense. This team, my guys love Bo Nix, right? So he can't do any wrong, right? So we trust Bo Nix. But the team environment, the locker room, on the sideline, no one ever panics. No one complains, no one panics, man. It's about just winning that football game. And we know on defense, if we just keep playing, he's going to make a play. We watch it every day in practice. I mean, this kid is special, special as a person, as a player. His talent's off the chart. So we trust he's going to make a play. So it's a close knit team, and you rarely in this league have a bunch of guys who play for each other. And it goes back to George Payton's and Coach Payton's vision for this team, right? It was all about getting the right kind of guys. It wasn't always talent first. Sean's big on vision. Is he a good fit for our locker room? Even the guys we added with Hufanga and Dre, it's perfect people. It's hardworking, team first, great people. So we turned this team strictly on acquiring the right people. Talent aside, it's the right guys. So it's a great locker room. It's a close knit team, man. So no one ever complains. We just play. And the results are the results, and it's falling our way. But it's not accident. It's purpose. We talk about how to finish games. Sean's big on vision. Everything we do in the program, from players to every game plan, is what's the vision for this game. It's what's the vision for this player. So it makes it easy, and it allows the coaches and George to kind of, always looking for the right fit. And right now, man, it's the right fit.
And the I know the quote. I talked to him last week. He was like, "Recognize the moment" was the mantra all week, and I have to think when you've got injuries in the defensive backfield, and the Chiefs are coming to town. You've got a kid like McMillan who comes out and plays the game of his career. What was your message to this defensive unit saying, "Hey, this is one of those games"?
I told those guys on Saturday night, I said, listen, man, I said, again, the vision and how we built this defense were to beat the Chiefs. How we rush, how we cover, right? That was directly to beat the Chiefs. Again, Sean and George, right? Coming back here to Denver, our plan was to build a team to take down the champion, and that's been the Chiefs for a very long time. So, I wasn't surprised how we've played them the last 2 years because that's how we built it. And defensively speaking, on those guys, it's a bunch of guys that are self-made. We got obviously Pat's special. I mean, he's a top 10 pick. He's been special for a long time, right? We have Jade Barron, who's a first round pick. Outside of that, it's a bunch of third, fourth, fifth round, sixth round picks, that are self-made guys. And that's the beauty of this group, man. Guys work so hard. They pull for their teammates. You never have to motivate guys to study or to practice, man. I mean, it's embedded in guys. And the great combination of having a bunch of just self-made guys, right? It's turned to a perfect storm for us.
Yeah, and I'm watching the game on Sunday, and I'm like, okay, so Barron's a first round pick. I'm like, he's not playing corner. Well, wait a second, big play on the tight end. There's Barron, like
Right.
not necessarily being told, like, hey, you have to go and be an All-Pro rookie.
No.
Like you seem to be working these guys in, and there's so much depth on this team and such a great vision that it seems like you're watching, like almost like a beautiful symphony in unison, watching these guys come together.
Again, it goes back to the vision. For him, he's obviously a corner for us. But we had Pat, we had Riley, so his vision was to be a nickel dime player. In the first year, obviously, and moving forward, play some outside corner. But with Pat being injured for the last 3 weeks, he was forced to play corner. And I'm telling you, it helped him because he went from playing nickel and dime, where it was more of a thinking man's game, to playing corner, where your physical traits had to, kind of activate. And we saw it in practice, and it was like, man, that's the first round pick. He's been playing nickel and dime. It's kind of more of a thinking leverage game. I'm blitzing, I'm fitting here, so it's kind of more of a thinking position. But at corner, man, you have to run, you have to move, and we saw it. So for the last 3 weeks, he's been starting that corner and base, and, obviously it's worked for us, So losing Pat was a big deal for us, but it forced him to kind of take a step forward to play more corner and still play his dime role. But I'm telling you, this kid has played really good football, and my biggest concern with young corners is no different than young quarterbacks. If you play them too soon, right, and they have a lot of failure, with lifetime, right? Some guys don't recover from that, So my vision for him was to kind of bleed him in slow, and to create the failures in practice, not in game, so he can grow from those. And obviously, it's worked for us. And he's playing really good football. He's super smart, and with Pat being out, man, he's played more. That helps us moving forward because now if we lose a corner or two, it's no drop off, and that's the expectation.
We know we can rely on him.
Absolutely.
You see Surtain every day, and you've seen him for all the year. Just empty the bag because he was defensive player of the year,
Right.
and he's an All-Pro, and we all see that. But I don't know if the viewer or the listener in Miami or the viewer or the listener in Kentucky can appreciate just how good this player is, because I talk to coaches around the league, and they're like, "There's no debate anymore. This is the number one corner in football."
I agree. You start with the physical traits. I mean, 6'2.5". He runs 4.4. He's got great footwork. He's got great quickness. He can bend. He's got ball skills. He tackles. Last year, his best stat was he didn't miss one tackle, as a corner. And obviously the cover skills, but the football IQ, it's off the charts, right? I mean, he can play safety. We travel, Pat, left, right, slot. It doesn't matter where the best guy goes. He can travel, and I am not calling on man with that. I'm just calling the defense. And Pat ends up playing nickel. He plays nickel. He ends up playing dime. He plays dime. We have calls where he's on number 3. He's playing the safety spot. So he understands the entire defense. So we can match him on any one, any time, any spot, right? And the person, right? The person is better than the player. And that's rare you say that about, great players. But, he's so humble. He's a great teammate. He services his teammates like no other. Like Riley Moss, that's his guy. And
Yeah.
I can't get pissed at Riley too much because Pat may get pissed at me. He
He's
protects Riley from
protected
me.
him too. Yeah.
But he's a great teammate, and that's his best trait, man. As a person, outside of the physical traits, and a great player and a tough player, he don't have very many weaknesses. His only weaknesses, he thinks he's not Pat Surtain sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say, dude, you're the best corner in football. I don't want any balls caught. Like not one ball caught over there. So believe me and buy that. But such a great person. But it's a joy to coach because there's no issues. I mean, you can coach him hard, right? You can explain. He learns quickly. He corrects quickly, and he's so self-aware, man. So that's huge for a star.
I look at the culture with this Broncos team. Obviously, everyone's believing, and it starts with George and Sean.
Hmm.
Um, you obviously joined them as the defensive coordinator. You came in. What were you trying to establish for your defense, and have you gotten there? You think yet, or is there even more that this unit can do?
Right. When I first came in here, obviously it's my second stint here, and Vic's obviously a great defensive mind. So the defense wasn't totally broken. Obviously Vic and my philosophies are a lot different. So it took me a couple weeks, couple games to kind of just get down to what I wanted the division to look like. I'm more of an attack style, downhill coordinator, and Vic's more of a bend don't break, kind of more shell. They both work, but I think for our football team, where we were in the season, our first couple years, it was better off playing downhill than playing aggressive on our terms, taking the ball away, hitting the quarterback. And that's kind of turned our entire philosophy on defense, man, to play on our terms, but also be smart. We focus on being smart bullies. We don't want to
Mm.
be a crazy blitz team that's blitzing, exposing players, exposing gaps. So everything we do that's aggressive, it's thought out. And we talk about being smart bullies, and that's our deal. And
Smart bullies,
smart bullies,
number one in the league in sacks,
yes.
man.
And we can flip it, right? We can play, games differently, and I pride myself in that, right? We can have a game where it's 65% pressure, right? Or we can have a game where it's 10% pressure. In the first half against the Chiefs, they were taking shots early, so I didn't blitz as much, right? Like 4 or 5 times. In the second half, we blitzed about 20 times. So we pride ourselves on adjusting quickly on game day. We have a bunch of smart guys, who've now been with me for 3 years, so we can adjust quickly on the fly and go from being attacking, to kind of bend don't break back to attacking. And if you can do those things on game day, man, it makes it easy to win games late, especially because you can adjust quickly.
I first met you when you were coaching the Broncos as a head coach. Of
Yeah.
course, you go on to be the defensive coordinator with Cliff in Arizona. And Cliff, by the way, loves you. Everyone who's ever worked with you loves you. And then you come to Denver. I think it's very rare we see a former head coach come back to a city and say, you know what, I'm going to be a coordinator and I'm going to coach as one of the units. There's a
Right.
humility in there. There's a lack of ego in there. And there's also someone who's very secure in their place. With the fans and of course with their place in the league and as far as all the competitive nature goes and being finally one of the head coaches, what was the conversations and did you hesitate saying, am I really coming back here to be the
Right.
assistant after I was the head man?
No, it was never a problem for me. Obviously Sean's been a head coach for a long time, a very successful head coach. Denver to me was it's a home. It's home for me, right? I played ball in Boulder. I lived there after I graduated college. I was a head coach here for 2 seasons, so it was home for me. So I didn't leave Denver so bitter, where I couldn't come back. My 2 years in Denver as a head coach, I thought it was tough times, but it was the best I can do at the moment, and
Hmm.
it wasn't bad football, right? It was just not enough time to get it fixed. So I didn't see it as failure for me. It was my first opportunity. It didn't go right. I look in the mirror, and I fix me, and I come back and let's do it. Let's do it better. So when Sean called me, I wasn't opposed to it. I was very excited about it. Because
Yeah.
Denver is a great place, and getting here, man, the ownership is the best. It's the best. Meeting George. I mean, George is the best. And Sean, his way of painting pictures, right? I mean, Sean very well. He can paint a
Yes.
picture, man. And his vision for me, his vision for the defense, his vision for this team, I was sold. And that's Sean's greatest strength, man. I mean, he can paint a picture, and he gives you a vision of what he wants it to look like, so it's easy to follow. So I had great confidence in Sean. I love George. I love the ownership, and I love this city. And I told my wife yesterday. I said, to be 9-2 in Denver, after After our head coaching stint here, man, I'm so happy for the city. I have buddies here, who I went to school with who are huge Broncos fans, and they're happy. They're happy with the product, and this fan base, Peter, is amazing. When you're winning in Denver, man, it's nothing like it. It's the best job in football. You
Mm.
So for me, it's been fulfilling to come back and work with Sean, the ownership, George, these players, and just for the city, to have a chance to win and go to the playoffs and hopefully one day win a championship again. That's huge for me. Outside of my own, wants here, I want it for the city.
No, but it says so much about you as a man, as a coach, and you're beloved around the league, and your players obviously respond to you. What would you say your coaching style is when you're coaching individual players? Because you're not one of these guys that's going to have the firebrand quote, yet I know you've got an intensity to you out
Yep.
there that these guys all respond to. I guess, how would you explain it to someone who's like, all right, how is Vance Joseph as a coach to the individual player?
Right, right. Well, my style is simply players first and scheme second. And I'm
See, I love that.
less than
You very rarely
yeah,
hear that though.
yeah, yeah. That's my style. And it comes from Wade Phillips. I mean, Wade was probably the biggest influence in my life as far as coaching defense, and he was always talking about players first and scheme second. And that meant two things, right? Obviously, when you acquire a player, man, you acquire him for a reason, and doing what he does best makes his days easy, right? And I would watch players with Wade. Like the players never had a bad day with Wade. And that's why they loved him, right? They would run to meetings, they would run to work because he never asked them to do anything that was outside of their skill set. So the player had no anxiety about playing for Wade. And he would always say, listen, fellas, all the mistakes are mine. The effort's yours, right?
Mm.
You make mistakes, that's on me, but the effort's yours. So that's my philosophy. It's players first, it's scheme second, right? I want to put players in the best position they can be in. And outside of that, man, I want to love on each player differently, and those private conversations you have with players, when they're having hard times behind the scenes, that means a lot. And some guys come to the league and they stop coaching like they would coach in high school or college. But I always tell coaches, man, don't change that, right? Coach the player, coach the person, because if you invest in the player and he knows you really care about him, you will get the extra from that player. And you can coach him harder and you can coach him honestly, and in this league, if you can't coach players honestly, you can't help them, you can't fix them because you can't give them self-awareness, right? And that comes from not just the meeting room, that comes from off the field, right? So if you don't reach your players, man, off the field, you surely can't meet them in the classroom or the grass, right? So
Mm.
that's my philosophy. Every player is different. Coaching them is differently. Some players you can get on publicly, some you can't. So just knowing your players, man, it's key. And once you know players, they will give you the extra, and that's what it takes in the fourth quarter to win games late.
Yeah. And you guys added Dre Greenlaw and
Mm,
added Hufanga. I don't know Hufanga at all. I know Dre. I know
mm,
Dre though, and that
yeah.
is a hammer. That guy
Oh,
comes in. Has he been a total game changer in the locker room too?
absolutely. Acquiring Dre and Hufanga has been great for us because those guys have been on great defenses.
Mhm.
They've been in big games, right? So our defense was fairly young, right? Outside of DJ Jones, I mean, we got young guys, and most of those guys haven't been to playoffs. They hadn't been in big games, right? So those guys have brought an attitude to our defense, like, look, man, if we do it right, no one beats us, right?
Mm.
And they expect to win every single game. Like Dre expects to make every play, right? His first game back, he played 20 snaps. He had 6 tackles. Then he missed the game because of the suspension. Then
Yep.
he came back. He played about 30 snaps and had about 11 tackles, right? He won a game ball. And Dre hadn't played with us a lot, right? He had
Yeah, he missed the first 6 games too, right?
training
Yeah.
camp was spotty, so he's catching up schematically. And even on the sideline on Sunday, he was like, "Man, I can give you more." I said, "You are doing fine." I
We're
said,
good.
"That's going to come with time, right?" But he wants to get more comfortable in the scheme, so he can help us, and be the best linebacker in football, which he wants to be. Now, Hufanga's been excellent. I had no idea what we acquired, through
Yeah.
this process in free agency. You watch the tape; it was good tape in San
He
Fran.
had that massive year in I think
Oh,
2022,
yeah.
massive, and then he got hurt.
Then he got hurt. So it wasn't a bunch of evidence, Peter, to say he can play in our system. But you see 2 or 3 plays, you go, man, he can do it. And once we got him here, it was a lot more than I thought. I mean, the athlete, the size, the racer, the smarts, the leader, the intensity, it's all there. So those two guys have put us over the top as far as being one of the best defenses in the league.
And then there's the core and the front seven guys.
Mm,
And I'm just gonna quickly say, I mean, we don't have to do too much on him, but like
yeah.
Bonito is one of one as far as body type
Hmm.
and speed. I
Yeah.
don't know if that guy plays linebacker in 1995, but he
Right.
sure can in 2025.
It's no doubt. His get off, his instincts are off the charts. He can drop into coverage. He can cover guys. I mean, he is rare that he can do every job that's acquired from outside backer at a high level. I mean, he's picked off balls for touchdowns, all those things, and he's super smart. But his best trait, Peter, okay, he's so unselfish. He's so
Yes.
unselfish, man. This kid's a team first guy all through and through. How we rush the passer versus certain people is it's the cage rush, right? Now, you asking a guy who
Explain
can
that.
win,
What is the
right?
cage rush? Explain it for me.
So if you're rushing four guys, right? You're rushing four guys, right? It's always going to be two gaps open. It's one
Hmm.
gap open naturally because it's 5 against 4, and the quarterback carries the gap. So when you're cage rushing, right, the edge guys have to rush with power and to crush the edge, and the inside guys have to rush with power or game to keep the QB and to kind of close two of the gaps off, with movement or with our vision and eyes. As a speed rusher, he can win his one-on-one every single down he lines up, right? So to buy into cage rush, right, so we can contain Jalen, right, or Patrick, right, it's
Yeah.
so rare for a rusher because they don't want to do that, right? He's wasting his talent, but
I
he
could get
does.
25 sacks if I just beat my guy.
That's
But you're
right.
saying the
Now he
team
may get
needs you to do
25
this.
sacks, but the quarterback may run for 100 yards.
Yes.
So for us to contain Patrick or Jalen, right, or Justin in New York, man,
Yeah.
we cage rush the guys. So half the rushes he's putting on tape, he's cage rushing, right? So if he was allowed just to go every play, he would have already double the sacks he has. But man, he doesn't bitch at all about it. He's all team first. We're playing one game where he's already got 2 sacks, and we had a special kind of game spying for him. He goes, next series, Jonah Ellis, I'm going to
Yep.
flip it. I'm going to push the pocket. I'm going to give you the game and sack the quarterback. I look at him and I go, no. I said, Sean's going to fire you, and Sean's going to fire me if this don't work. I said, no, not right now. I said, maybe later on we can give Jonah a turn. Right now, it's third quarter. Stay in the game with us, right?
It's Nik Bonitto time. Yeah.
But
This is what we need.
he's so unselfish, right? And he wants Coop to have 15 sacks. He
I
wants
was going to ask
Allen to
about
have
Coop
50.
because
I mean, he
I
wants
watched
everyone
Coop and I'm like,
sacks.
this guy's special too.
Yes. Coop's our fire starter. I mean, he is our bully up front, right? He every day he's the same, right? He is tough and dark and crazy every single day. So we got Nick over here who's speed and skill set, and we got Coop, man, who's just a bull in the china shop, you know.
Yep.
And how we rush it's rare. We've got Coop and JFM, right? Very similar personalities, right? They want
Okay.
to break people, and we got Zach and Nick, right, who are outsmarting, gaming, speed rushing on one side. And I'm telling you, again, it's the perfect storm because we can
I
push
love
with the
it.
power and we can game with the speed. So it's like catching fish. So it's been good.
Oh, it's like catching fish, and they're number one in the league in sacks, so it's
Absolutely,
working.
absolutely.
It's great. I love that. Give us a good Sean Payton story. Obviously, you've known him around the league and you've been at league meetings and but
Yeah,
like when you're with him every day,
yeah,
I know the hours are different
hmm
and the stories can go on
yeah.
for longer than other coaches, but you want to hang on every word. What's your best Sean Payton story? If someone to say, give me a good Payton deal.
Well, SP is unique, right? But he paints these pictures, right? And he has a vision for every single thing, right? So we're in meetings last week, and we've given up too many third and longs, right? 15, 20, whether it's penalties, someone falls down, whether the guy makes a play, whatever. So we're going over the practice script on Wednesday. So he goes, I want to go, some good on good, third downs, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12. No, VJ, I want to go 3rd and 20. So I look at
Yes.
him and I go, okay, what do you mean there? I said, 20, coach? I said, how about 14-50? He goes, no, because you can't get anybody stopped at
That's
third
it.
and 20. So I
Little
want to
dig.
work, 3rd and 20. So I look at him, kind of giggle a little bit. He kind of giggles. He goes away. So Sunday, 3rd and 22,
Sure enough.
they throw a 9 ball and Riley fouls the guy. He looks at me. That's why I wanted to work. That's why I wanted to work it. I'm like, Coach, I get you, man. I get you. But his vision and his story came to fruition there.
Point
He
taken.
let me know. He let me know. You know.
No more
But I
third
was
and
the guy who
longs.
picked him up after the official knocked him down, so I had his back there.
That was crazy. I was worried about him because I've seen him get hurt on the sidelines
Yeah.
before. So the official knocks him down, and there you are to pick him up. What was Sean's comment afterwards?
He didn't say a word. He was fine. He kind of hit it and rolled. I picked him up. He goes, "Well, that flag's on me. Is it our ball?" I said, "I think it's our ball, Coach, but it's 2 flags down." So, but he was fine. He hit and
It's
rolled. We picked him up, dusted him off. Let's go win this
It
game.
was as smooth as it could be for getting
Yeah,
knocked over by the official.
absolutely,
It's been
absolutely.
so fun watching this team. And again, from afar, do you feel it every day? Is there just a juice around this Broncos team?
Yeah, it's a belief. It's a belief, and I think it's a belief because of the players we have in the building, and they believe in Sean's vision. And he always tells them, like, "Look, man, I've been here before. This is my 22nd season being a head coach. I've seen a bunch of teams. Right? This team is special, not because of the talent, because of the people that we acquired. And I think Sean came into this program and he changed the people, and that's the only way you can change the culture, changing the people, right? If the same people are doing the same things over and over again and you kind of intertwine those guys, it's tough to change the culture. So he made some tough decisions early, in his first couple of years, with Denver to let some prominent Broncos go, some really good veterans go because the culture had to change and it was time for
Mhm.
different people to do different things for the program, and it's worked for us. And his experience, his football IQ, his leadership skills have been everything for this football team, and painting the vision and painting the pictures for the players every single day has been the reason why we're winning.
He told a story on this podcast before the season started, and it sat with me. He said there are certain franchises, the gold star franchises in this league, that throughout history of the league have had a role, and the Broncos are one of them.
Yes.
And if you think about it in a book, the Broncos have certain chapters. You've got the Orange Crush chapter, you've got the Elway chapter, you've got the Peyton Manning chapter. And he's like, I think this team is good enough to have a chapter in that book. And that sat with me. And I'm like, if he's talking to me that way, I can only imagine being a player
Yeah.
or a coach with that group
Yeah.
saying, oh, wow, like if he believes in it, we all have to.
No, man, he's the best. I mean, his team meetings, they are absolutely the best because he is convincing. He's painting a picture. He's telling players things about this team before they can see it, right? And that's coaching. I mean, he's talked to players about being great players before they can even see it. Bonitto, you know, we both told Bonitto 2 years ago, man, you're gonna be a 15, 16 sack player before Nick can see that. Now he's doing those things, and he kind of always references back, man. You told me so, Coach.
Mm.
SP and VJ. So that's Sean's greatest strength. It's the players, man, and painting the picture, and the players love playing for him. They love playing for him.
Real quick, go down memory lane a little bit. The most, I guess, entertaining or player you loved coaching the most over your course of your career, a
Yeah.
guy that if I say his name, you'll just light up and be like, here's a story on that guy.
Oh God, Pacman Jones.
I was going to suggest it. I was like, can you give me a Pac-Man story from
I,
Cincinnati?
I
But
had
I was going to
Pac-Man
let you
Jones
just
twice.
go
I
there.
had him in Cincy. I had him in Denver twice. And Pac-Man is one of the smartest players I've ever coached in football. I mean, he is locked in. I mean, every single day, the film, the practice, he's the same guy every single day. Playmaker, but boy, I tell you, man, daily it's a fight, right? It's a fight because he's so smart, right? And he wants to fight about everything. If you don't show up right for him in a meeting, right, he will embarrass you in front of the players, right? So
Yeah.
he will force you to be a better
He's done the work
because
already.
he's done the work and he has questions, right? And he wants clear answers to those questions before he goes to the practice field. And that's fair, And every great player I've ever coached outside of Pac, all these guys, they want answers, right? And the great ones make you a better coach. So I always tell coaches, don't shy away from letting players have a voice, right? Hear them out because it's a partnership in this league. It's not college where I tell you what to do all the time and you just do it, right? It's pro ball, and every player has different issues, right? So they want you to help them solve it, and that's our jobs. But every great one I've ever coached, Peter, has made me a better coach. And Pac was one of those guys who had questions and he wanted answers immediately.
Give me a good Terrence Newman story. I feel like that's a guy that every coach says, oh, I had him and yeah, he was
Right.
better for the team.
Well, Terrence's best trait is he never aged,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the
Was
guy
playing at 41 in the league.
the guy I had him when he was like 38. He was still running 4.3s. I mean, it was unbelievable. But how he took care of himself was off the charts, and his football IQ was obviously high. But you would never know he's a 14, 15-year pro by how his physical traits never diminished, right? And for a corner to play that long and to still play with that kind of speed, that's very, very rare. And also to have the experiences and the football IQ to go with that, he made it look easy doing practice and doing games. But again, he was also a great pro that forced you to be a better coach because he's had a bunch of great coaches, right?
Yeah.
So your message and your teaching philosophies were a little bit off, right? He can sniff it out quickly, right? So for me, man, coaching those kind of guys made me a better coach, and it allowed me to coach to the player's strengths. It allowed me to coach to the player, right? And it allowed me to have players to give them a voice, right? So you knew their concerns and you can help them on game day, especially. So it's okay to listen to players, especially these guys who want to be great. They're putting the work in. So hearing them out is a key part to being a great coach in this league.
All right, two more player questions. Who was a wide receiver that your defense was able to shut down that you remember preparing and game planning for and being really proud of your unit and feeling very accomplished at the fact, oh my God, we held that guy in check and knowing just what an offensive talent he was.
Yeah, I would say, last year's game against Cincy, with Jamar Chase. I mean, he's the best in football in my opinion. I watched him grow up. I'm friends with his dad out in New Orleans.
Jimmy.
Jimmy. I mean, this kid's the best in football. So to have a plan to kind of get him contained this year was key. Obviously they have two of those guys there, so you can't let both guys go off. And
Mhm.
obviously Pat takes one, and then the plans to contain the other. So you know the, the plan was kind of mismatched. Sometimes Pat went to the best guy, and we kind of rolled away, and vice versa. So it was a good plan we had from the coaches to the players to execute that plan because that would have been really a long night if you couldn't get one of those guys stopped, and it worked out for us.
Yeah, and you guys ended up making the playoffs because of that. And then which quarterback do you remember game planning for? Just and obviously you've got such great success against Mahomes, and that
Mhm.
might be your calling card
Mhm.
right now. And just for the listeners, held the Chiefs to 22 points this week. Obviously, week 18, Wentz started, but shut them out. And
Mhm.
then last year in the two games, if it wasn't for the block field goal, who knows what happens, but held them to 16 points and
Yeah,
held them to 9 points.
yeah.
And I know you're not about yourself. You're not going to do a look at me, but like there at some point it's a pattern that Vance Joseph he does a pretty good job against this Andy
Yeah.
Reid and Patrick Mahomes offense.
I think that goes back to how we built it, Peter. And Sean's old school, myself, I'm old school, Georgia's old school, right? You take a job in a division where this team has won it for 10 to 12 straight years, whatever it's been the number. You have to build your team to beat that team. So our focus in the draft and free agency and how we play on defense was strictly to beat the Chiefs, and
Mm.
that's been our calling card the last couple of times we've played them. And right now it's working. We play good against those guys, but you have to build it that way because if not, how do you go to the next level? If you don't get past the king, so to speak. So I think it's a combination of how George and Sean and myself, the vision of how we built it, and how the players take to the game plans. And when you play someone twice a year, right, you get used to kind of playing that team. So the obviously it's a giant in the league's eyes, but when you play them all the time, you get used to playing that game, being patient, and how you rush Patrick is key. So it's been good to us. But man, watching him play Sunday,
I mean,
that quarterback would not go away, and you see his eyes. You just knew he was going to make a play. You just didn't know when, and you just hope that you can kind of keep it bottled up and get in the red zone and kind of hold him down there. But you just knew watching him, his body language, man. He was on. He was on one, and he wasn't going away, and that was scary in the fourth quarter.
and the irony was he used to own the Broncos for
Right,
years,
right.
and now it's kind of tilting the other way.
His first
My,
start, Peter, was against me in
was it that week 17
week
game?
17 and 18, and
Week 18. I
I
remember
didn't
he
know.
played. Alex Smith was resting.
Absolutely. I watched the kid play in college, and we evaluated him. And obviously we knew who he was. But that game, the first third down, he threw a seam ball, And I'm thinking, oh my God,
I
what the
believe it was
oh,
like a look away. He
yeah,
almost like his body goes a different way. And
man. Yeah,
that clip made the rounds all the next offseason because he got the starting job. They moved on from Alex Smith, and they're like, did you watch him in that meaningless game for them that
yeah,
they had already clinched a playoff spot?
yeah.
He was unbelievable.
That throw, and overall, we couldn't get him on the ground, right? We had Von Miller and Shaq Barrett. We had some great rushers, right? Shane Ray. We could not get him on the ground that day. And I thought, oh my God, we're in trouble. Then next year, in 18, we got him beat at our place. That's when he threw the ball with the left hand, right? That
Left
was
hand,
that was
Monday
thought
Night
of,
Football.
yeah. I mean, the left-handed pass when Vaughn was chasing him and diving at his heels, he throws the ball left-handed. He had a 3rd and 25 in that game. He converted against us. So I've seen it from day one, and he's a special player. And as long as he's there, they have a chance to, win championships because he is a killer, man, and he wants to win in the worst way.
All right, we're gonna wrap with this. And I had Spags on last year, and I asked him. I said, if you were to be a head coach again in this league, what would you think would be different than the first time around? I'm gonna ask you the same question,
Yeah,
and it's not me, fishing for anything. It's
sure.
just we live and we learn. And if you were to ask me, hey, something 4 or 5 years ago, if you got another chance to do now, what would you know? I would use my experience and say, here's what I would do differently. Is there anything that you think you could add or you would do differently than your first time around as a head coach if you
Yeah.
got a second opportunity?
I think, after the first time, just doing some self scouting, right? It's just being self aware. I thought with my first job in Denver, obviously defense was fine, right? I think the overall philosophy of building a team, I was chasing the wrong thing. Offensively, obviously Denver's had two great quarterbacks before Bo. It was John and Peyton, right? So I take this job in 15, they were world champions, right? With a
Yep.
great defense with Peyton Manning, and now it's 17. It's 2 years removed, right? So the team's kind of still intact defensively, and there's no Peyton, obviously, and the national media, the local media, myself included, right? How do we find the next
Yeah.
Peyton Manning or John Elway? And to me, that was naive and that was
Mhm.
immature, right? I should have spent my time on, again, playing great defense, right? Building an offensive line, you know, having a winning formula where I didn't need a Peyton Manning or John Elway at the time, right? Because those things are hard to find, right? That's unicorns, right? And you need obviously picks and lots of money and some misfortune to kind of pick those guys in the top five, and we wasn't there. So to chase that unicorn, right? Before I chased building the O line, let's run,
Mm.
or let's take care of the football. Let's play defense, right? The defense was still top 10, but I thought I missed a mark on that, right? I was chasing something that was really hard to acquire versus fixing O line, which was real, right? We could have fixed O line and ran the
That
ball
was a
more efficient.
more realistic thing you
That's more
could
real.
make better.
That's what I could have gotten done and still had a great product and won games, which would have bought me time to find a quarterback, right? But I thought I missed the mark there, and I regret that. But I learned from it, and again, watching how Sean has built this team has been for me, a master class on how to build a team around what you have and how to win each game differently until you acquire that player. Even before Bo Nix got here, should have been a playoff team. And I watch how Sean would maneuver the game plans and strategically win each game differently, before we had a Bo Nix. And
Hmm.
that's the key in this league, man. You have to find out your formula to win with what you have available. And that only just gives you time, it buys you time to fix the major problems, which for me was the quarterback. But it was too much focus on that and not enough focus on winning around that issue until we had more time to kind of find it. And
It's
I,
a great
I
answer.
regret that, but that's the truth, and I can admit that, and moving
Well,
forward,
I don't think there would be any shame or fault in that when everyone says you can't win without a quarterback. Well,
right?
we can, but
Yes,
until we get that quarterback,
right,
let's not put all of
right.
our faith in
You
whatever
can't
that's
do
going to
that.
be.
You can't do that, and that's a cop out. It's a cop out. You can win this league with a good football team doing it the right way, with the right formula to win, and that I learned.
Mm. Vance, I so appreciate it. I know you're on your bye week. You could be doing a million other things. This was so awesome. I love talking to you. You know my respect for you, and I think you know the league's respect for you. So for you to take some time mid-season during a bye week to just reflect a little bit, but also give us a little inside look on what you got cooking right now, it's pretty cool for us.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been great. I'm in Scottsdale. It's rainy but a little bit sunny, so hopefully some golf and some relaxation and get back to work.
Will you watch football on Sunday on a bye week?
I will.
You will.
Absolutely, I will. I love it. I have to watch it.
I feel the same way. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, keep it going, keep rocking, and we'll see you down the line for sure. Vance Joseph, defensive coordinator of the team that is the talk of the town right now in the AFC, the Denver Broncos. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me.
Well, that was awesome. I love the fact that Vance is on a bye week, and I asked him to do this, and he's like, "Yep, for you, we'll do it." And then two, it was a history lesson, and it's a defensive coordinator lesson, and it's an amazing conversation to have, because when you've got the number one unit in football, it's not just, hey guys, go out there and do your job. There is a method to the madness. That cage blitz stuff, like, all right, let's recap that a little bit. You've got Jonathan Franklin Myers and you've got Cooper, who are these two madmen who want to break your bones and just rush the quarterback on one side. And on the other side, you've got Zach Allen, who's a technician and a brilliant guy on one defensive end. And then you got Bonitto, who sounds like he's the speed guy, but is also a deep thinker. And then it's like, how do we mesh this all together? That Bonitto stuff is really interesting. So basically what Vance is saying is, if we wanted to build a defense around Bonitto getting sacks, he could basically do it because he's so fast around the edge and his technique is incredible. And he's probably the best pass rusher for someone his size that we've ever seen in the league. Like, he's that good for a small pass rusher. And yet he knows, for the better of the team, we're going to do a different approach where you might have to eat it a little bit because we're going to have to do this to win games. And when you've got running quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, who they contained, and Patrick Mahomes, who they contained, and then Justin Fields, which you referenced, that they contained, it's like you really appreciate that there is a game plan behind this and the players have to buy in. Gosh, I love Vance Joseph. I thought he was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Broncos have it all going on right now. They really do. Payton has them clicking, but Joseph's got them going, and they get back Surtain after a bye week. And then they've got their stretch run, and we'll see. They were the hot pick for everybody before this season, and very rarely does the hot pick for everybody actually do the thing. They right now, they're doing the thing. And maybe Bo Nix isn't your favorite young quarterback, and maybe Bo Nix drives you nuts for 3 quarters, but as you heard from Vance Joseph, they believe in him. They believe in him, and they know that he's going to bail them out when they need him, and he's done it every single time. On behalf of a fantastic production crew, Tucker, Jack, Mark Grillo, Rochelle, and our resident DJ Leverage with the great music, I thank you for listening. Awesome weekend ahead. I'm circling Cowboys Eagles. That's the game of the week, folks. Cowboys Eagles, and I might say it right now on a Tuesday. I might be going with the Cowboys. I might be going with the Cowboys just based on what I saw last night. It's fresh in my memory. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.